So I want to know God goes in a box. We need to put discipline around it so the grace of God can flow. That's all it is. I mean, when I say when you get up, hey, 5:55 in the morning, I want to spend time with God, it's not easy to necessarily do that. But if I don't do that, then I can't say in the same sentence, I want to know God and have 4 kids, busy life, and things. And if I don't get the time with the Lord, that value of just sitting in His presence, being filled up in the Spirit, creating that discipline, those boundary lines, those external boundary lines around the value, then it's just not going to happen. You see what I'm saying? You can do that with anything. I mean, so I wrote down, so Psalm 16, we talked about that this morning. And, it's very interesting that when my heart is undisciplined, it will chase other things, and my sorrows will multiply. And that's what happens, right? I mean, so when we just do whatever we want, thinking, oh, there's freedom, then you're in for a life of sorrow. But when there's boundary lines that fall in really good places, like there's a boundary line of discipline and saying no to things, and in fact, we won't get into the practicals on the other side, but what that does is we experience joy of the Lord at His right hand. There's pleasures. So the reason why that verse doesn't hit has no meaning to you because maybe you never experienced it. And the reason why you haven't experienced it is because you want something you're not willing to discipline. You have to discipline your body as an athlete. And, one of the things that I was telling Ricky on the way here, because we were driving over to some get together with the Swedish guys. One of the things that I remember growing up, one of my favorite baseball players was Nolan Ryan. He was like, Texas Rangers guy. He's from Houston Astros. He threw 100 miles an hour. I mean, he was amazing, Hall of Famer. Well, while the other guys were pitching, and at the end of the day, they got no hitters, and they celebrate, and they go home, and they take showers, go home, and do whatever, go out with their friends. When he pitched an outstanding game, he went back in the weight room. Because there was something about if I don't discipline my body, then it's going to unravel, and that place of success might be the last time I get to taste it. I think it's the same way with prayer. When we hit success, it's not that when we had a success. I would say we had a really good day today. I mean, people got touched by the Lord. It was a great day. But you could take that and say tomorrow we can go easy on it, or you could take that and say tomorrow we got to actually go harder. Because it's not a performance thing. It's just saying, hey, look, there's a place of success. The enemy usually comes after success. Remember David? He's on that. He should have been at battle. He's just looking around, just kind of bored, and then he sees a woman that's not his own. He's just coming, bring her to me. They got pregnant. Then all of a sudden, what else happens? He's got to cover that thing up, and he gets worse. He murders the guy. And then Nathan gets in and he says, look, you're an undisciplined man. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm saying it's not a performance thing. If you hear this with your ears of performance, it will affect you in a negative way. This discipline, self-control, is a gift as a fruit of the Spirit. It's a fruit of the Spirit. And the only way we can actually receive it is when we surrender and walk in the Spirit. This is a supernatural life we're living. Whoever's struggling with thoughts or sin or whatever it is, He has to deliver you from it. There is a desperation. God, please, in the name of Jesus, I need your help. And we discipline whatever that value is. Pure mind. Okay, what are we going to do about the purity of our mind? Then, put that thing. What discipline is going to happen around this? The grace of God can flow through it. You may need a book. You may need to talk to a friend. You may need to go see Steve at the Glenn House. I mean, there's so many different things, but you got to put the discipline around it so the grace of God can flow. It's like setting up the tabernacle. It was all set up. You know what I love is it was Tuesday night. One of the things I said to the college team that I absolutely. Who's there for Tuesday night? It's college time. Tuesday night, you were. Is that it? Just 2 people. Okay. So one of the. It was a powerful night. People got healed, set free. There's freedom in the room. But the reality was there had to be people that prepared the way. There had to be a setting up of the tabernacle so the fire of God can come. Right. So just all the behind the scenes stuff. Hunter and Michael and the team, they had to send out, pass out flyers. They are, can I just say that there's the equipping, and there's the inspire, equip, and mobilize. That's who we are as a people, right? This is something in Revelation God gave me. Each of us own a part of that. So vision, inspiration, call to the kingdom, and then there's the equipping part, the equipping of the saints so that we can mobilize them to the city, campus, and the nations of the earth. What I love about when I honor Mary Michael and Hunter, encounter, the college student, I said, guys, that night was powerful. We're going to do more encounter nights because we need that. We need more than feeding the 5,000 so that we can find our disciples. And there's something powerful. It's like we have to have people that are good at equipping at the front end and the follow-up. But when they're all, it's one of the things, this night could have never happened without your team. I mean, you know, Ricky came in, his team, they're all playing, they're worshiping, power of God. You know, I gave a word on just coming to Jesus. It was a powerful night. People came to the Lord. It was a powerful night. People were on the floor. There was tears on the floor. There's weeping. I was like, look, you set it up. You pick them off the floor and say, hey, I want to meet with you. I want to disciple you. I want to make sure that the life of Jesus is multiplying in you. It's the body of Christ moving. It takes great discipline of the Lord to, you see what I'm saying? It's the setup of the tabernacle so the fire of God can come and it just happens. It gets silly when we're saying, man, I really wish I could play the keys. I really wish I could preach. I really wish I could do this. I really wish... Stop it. If in order for this thing to actually work, we all got to play our part. So I'm saying there's a discipline even around the box, even around the value of our gift. How do we sharpen that gift? You cannot change the gift that God gave you will never be changed. You can't get someone else's gift. But the gift inside of you will be enhanced as you discipline that gifting, as you learn more about it so the power of God can flow through it. And it takes great discipline of the mind so that we don't give in to what? Comparison, envy, and all the other stuff that we deal with in our culture. Does that make sense? All right. It's a little all over the place. But, you know, what else is there? So time with Jesus. So again, I'll read some passages to show you that Peter's all about being sober for the purposes of fill in the blank. So here's a good one. Therefore, prepare your minds for action. Keep sober in spirit. Fix your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you with the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, do not be conformed to the former lusts which you were in ignorance. But like the Holy One who called you, be holy yourselves also in all your behavior, because it is written, you shall be holy, for I am holy. We're to discipline our minds so we get a better revelation of Jesus. He is an end. I mean, that was mind-blowing for me when I had that revelation. Of like, wow, this whole thing is not about me interacting with Jesus so that I can ultimately be a better person or so I can, whatever, fill in the blank, so I don't get in a car accident, so I mean, whatever, you know, just good, bad, all the prayers that we pray, but I get free so I know Him more, so I actually enjoy His presence. So this thing is actually real, we're not just talking about it. You see what I'm saying? It is powerful, and the way we do it is self-discipline, is submitting to the Spirit, saying, God, renew my mind. When I got that revelation, the renewal of the mind is not reading more scriptures, although we have to read them. It's when He douses the words on the page with gasoline and blows it up, like with fire, so that we can actually believe it. It comes alive in our hearts. It burns. There's a passion that He wants to ignite in us as we read His word. It's so powerful. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And I think sometimes the church, we get disillusioned when people talk like that, because it's hard for us to understand. We're living our lives and our minds are being oppressed, and we want more of Jesus on one side. We all do. There's a lot of desire in the church to know who God is. There's very little discipline, so there's very little delight. It's that moment. Do you know some of you guys play sports, or some of you, just school itself, you had to take a lot of tests. Have you ever just share a story of just somebody, share a story where you got to work really hard, maybe dance, and you just nailed it, and it's just that place of delight, and you're sitting back, you're sitting in your chair, you're done with the day, you're laying in your bed, you're like, I can't get better than this. But I guarantee you, it didn't just go from desire to delight. I mean, there was somewhere in the middle there that you were willing to let others come in, so that, and not be offended when people get in your world and say, hey, do you remember? I thought you said this year was going to be a year of whatever. And now you're offended because you're all out of shape because you gave in to the enemy. You just gave in to the lies, you gave in to all this stuff. And somebody gets around you and says, hey, how's this going? And it's like, your heart began hard and bitter because there was this place where you thought God was just going to bless you. He wants to bless you. But there's a place where we got to get that thing disciplined. That's why there's fasting. So do you hear the 30 minutes with the Lord? I don't even use that language, to be honest with you, anymore. I don't time my times with the Lord. I don't think there's been a time where I did that. He radically saved me. I had to be with him. I had to get the scriptures. They're a pleasure to me. It's like, so you get excited about watching a movie. I haven't seen a movie in a long time. You just pop it in. It's just the pleasure that you get. You can have that by reading the Word. You can have that by like, wow, this thing is so good. It's so good. It's like getting on an airplane, going to Paris. It can be like that. Whatever excites you about life, it actually can be like that to read His Word. That is real. It's powerful. But it only comes from a place of delight. There's so many times when I've read the scriptures, nothing's happening. But I'm not reading it so that something happens, so I get a goosebump, so I get something out of it. But I know that on the back end, I'm stronger. I know that when I'm going into warfare, it's like, man, I'm so thankful that word came. When I'm beginning to feel the little pride, the humility unravel, so to speak. I'm beginning to have a little bit more pride. I'm starting to feel that, be sober, spirit, it says in 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober and alert because your devil is right around the corner. Don't be foolish. When Peter's like, hey, I got this. I'll never forsake you, Jesus. I'm with you. Don't be so foolish. Because he says later on, Satan is trying to sift you. And so there's just this place where Jesus said, okay, well, I'm praying for you, Peter, so that your faith will endure. So good. You awake? I know, it's a lot, but it's not condemning. To me, it's a joy. Discipline is a joy because I know the result. I know the back end of it. It's a beautiful thing. Some of us want to know so you hear a message on prophecy. You're like, wow, love. That guy's so anointed for prophecy. I really, and you do nothing about it. The desire's there. You never get a place of delight. I want to pray for people. I want to sharpen my skills in the prophecy. I want to see people sick, free, and whole. But you don't read any books on prophecy. You don't humble yourself and talk to anybody. You don't buy a ticket to Bethel. Do whatever it takes. I'm a do whatever it takes person. I've gone to IHOP, Bethel. I'm not just saying it because I want to learn. I am always learning. I spent 3 hours with Rick Busher. You remember the guy up here, the Australian dude, remember him and his wife? I spent 3 or 4 hours with him in Waco. Why? Because I messed up and I want more of Jesus. You know what I'm saying? I want more of him. And so there's this place where it's like, did I feel like waking up at 5 in the morning the last 2 times in Waco? No, I slept in a bachelor pad. Bad idea, my choice. But I got up at 5 in the morning, got to the Waco church, got in there, praised the Lord, awesome. I was exhausted, halfway falling asleep. Rick's like, hey, you're still ready? I'm like, you know what? I am not, but by the grace of God, will give me the energy I need, and I will go. Got a bread and bananas and a cup of water, an orange. Got in his room. I said, tell me whatever it is. Just get whatever it is. Just get. He's like, that's what I love about you. Just you never stop. And there's something in us. If we have a great desire to be like Jesus, a great desire to know Him, a great desire to impact the world, but it'll never happen without the place of discipline. We're going to get super practical about it, but you got to understand my heart behind it, that it is a joy. That is the meter. It's never been it's not a chore to spend time with the Lord. It's not a chore to just understand that I have to carve out time. This morning, I didn't feel anything in my room. Nothing. The thoughts come. Oh, John, just get out of my room. Who invited you anyways? Just get out and just worship. Be thankful. Just start, and then all of a sudden something starts happening. It's like, okay, and the passage comes out. Read Peter, read this, read that, read Isaiah, and Revelation comes, and it's an enjoyment. And then later, 5 hours later, I come home and I'm kinder to my kids. I'm kinder to my wife. It's amazing. There's fruit that just got in the system because the work that there was hours put in. Yeah. It's the whole sowing and reaping. Yeah. All right. So the fruit of the time with Jesus ultimately is, the fruit of the Spirit. So if you want any of the fruits of the Spirit, just study it. On the airplane, I don't know what I was. On the way there, There's thankful. I just looked up everything on thankfulness. Like, I want to study thankfulness. I want to know what thankfulness is. I want to understand what it does. It's a key, a gateway. Open up the praises of God, the blessings of the Lord. There's revelation when we get in His Word. It takes discipline. And oftentimes, there's warfare in my mind saying, nah, you already read that. What was I going to do? I mean, this stuff happens. It's in there. Don't give into it. It is an enduring faith. Someone told me that, like, oh, I feel like I'm called to stay here. Great. What do you want me to give you, a medal? I mean, at the end of the day, it's to the end. Those who endure to the end get the crown. It's an enduring faith. That's what it's an enduring faith. It's not something, I mean, we need encouragement, thankfully. And I know that people say that because they're like, oh, I'm really excited here, I love it here, this is awesome. But I want to talk to you in 20 years. Because what I know about this faith is an enduring faith. It's an the reward goes to the overcomer. And that's not anything to do with our flesh or our performance. Yeah. It's a surrendered life. Yeah. It is hard. It is not easy. I don't want to make this thing out to be very easy. I have to say this because I don't want anyone leaving being like, man, why is it so easy for that person? It's hard for everybody. Yeah. Everybody. It's challenging for everybody. But there is grace on our lives. There's grace available to do all the things that God's called us to do. And He's not a taskmaster telling God disciples, because there's fruit. When we disciple, we grow. When we're challenged, we're growing. Life group. You say you're lonely, you don't have to be lonely anymore because God's created it that we can have a family. It's so much fun going to Tanya Emil's house with this week. It's fun like that. I walked in, hey John, what's going on? Hey, I mean, why would I not want to go to life group? It's when I discipline myself to go to life group instead of being like, oh, I'm not needed, oh, I'm not loved, oh, no one's ever going to say I mean, okay, so the option, if I go that route, the option is I'm just going to be isolated at home and mope, watch a movie, maybe even get in more trouble. I mean, I can't do that. It's not an option. I've got to give the family of God because the family of God is going to encourage, even though they're not. Do you see what I'm saying? There's power available when we lean in instead of isolate. There's a discipline. The value is I want to be whole. I want to be known. Those are the blessings that we're made for that. We're made for community. It's not good for man to be alone. I want a healthy marriage. I need a date night. And I want to help them. I got to respond well. I want to love my kids. Date night. You can't have a good relationship with your son if you don't spend any time with him. You can't. It's so easy when you think about it in that light. There is fruit on all these things. And there's, this church, all the time. Fine, go find another church. At the end of the day, don't complain because we're telling you to do, because we want you to be fruitful. We want you to multiply. We want you to be full of joy. I tell you these things, what? So that your joy may be complete. Yes. I tell you these things because you have a miserable life. He never said that. So I tell you these things because you have a joy might be complete. So there's joy, there's friendship, it's available, it's awesome for everybody in the world. Right? So, and then there's Sunday service. What do I need to do? I just want to do discipleship. I want to spend time with Jesus. I'm not in the Sunday service. Okay, well, you'll be visionless. Eventually, you actually won't want to do discipleship. You guys won't want to spend time with God because you want to see the family of God, the fruit of God that keep it going. You have to be with the family of God. There's a synergy that's actually created when we get together like this morning. I'm telling you, when we finally have a building, we'll probably never leave. And eventually, that's the goal because there's like a 24-hour work. But we got to be faithful. We got to be faithful with the little that we do have. There's got to be faithfulness. Someone told me the other day, they said, look, if you want 24-hour prayer, you're going to start pouring into people and raising up leaders. And and I agree. I talked to the upper room guys. They started 8 years ago with 100 people. All they just wanted is to pray and worship. The thing blew up in the last 4 years. It was awesome. Now, I did challenge the guy. I said, look, you guys are really weak on missions. And all I've been telling you is that, look, I want upper room to last, okay? I love upper room. You guys have blessed us so much. But they're so weak on evangelism. They just don't seem, because everybody's so burnt out. So you're going to be a lopsided church. Well, I'll tell you, it won't last in 10 years. Because you have to have a balance. You got to have prayer, yes. Worship, yes. You got to have those are the motivating gifts. But if you don't have an outlet, you'll be a Dead Sea. Yeah. Oh man, woe is me for 10 years. Well, just have a woe is me 1 year, get freed up, and go give something away. Because if you don't give something away, you're going to be always a consumer. And then all of a sudden, our upper room is become a consumer room. And it's not okay. And so he's, But we're a balanced church, and it takes actual work to get to do it. That's why it's so hard. Yeah. It is hard work. Yeah. And I need that accountability. Me personally, I have to have balance in my life. I need all of that. I need all 5 of these things and more. And so even missions. What's the benefit of missions? People saved. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I thought, well, that doesn't make me feel good. Well, it makes them feel good when they're in heaven. I mean, it's not. Eventually, this thing's got to be about somebody else. I mean, we have to have a. All right, this thing's not about me. It's got to get outside the 4 walls so that there's joy, so this doesn't become boring. I guarantee you, there's the same amount of numbers in 2 or 3 years, the thing is going downhill because something went right, and we need that accountability, right? I need it. Hey, John Borley, Weekend Evangelist, thank you for telling me. Now we need more. I mean, let's carry it. Let's do it. Hey, we're a little weak. People tell me all this stuff. Hey, we're a little weak in the word, or we're a little weak. That's fine. I love that. I don't want a bunch of yes men around me. I'm not going to grow. Yeah. So when I ask for, hey God, I want more of you, and somebody comes and calls me, I have a choice to make in that moment. Do I receive it? Because maybe the Lord and I have something in that, because He might be answering the prayer of desire, and the person that is disciplining me so that I can get to a place of delight. So I can sit there and be like, thank you. 2 years ago you said we were weak on this, but we got our act together and now we have fruit for the long haul. So you can't get up out of shape. So that's why I ask you, what is it you want me to keep you accountable to? I don't want to eat sweets anymore. Why? Because I have high cholesterol. My parents had that, some heart problem. Hey, I noticed, you're having a day. This is happening in my life. Okay, so this is like I use examples. I try to stay away from sweets because it's a little weakness in me, So Nicole's like, you really want that? Why do you have to be? And then if I choose to surrender and submit to that and humble myself, which is not easy. A lot. I'm telling you right now, it's not. Especially when it comes to chocolate. But when there's, and even like there are times it's like, we're in the house and if some of the kids are around, we're trying to talk about something. It's like I'm external processor. You get me going, it's hard to shut me off. And so she's like, kids, wait, awesome. And I'm so glad we stopped because they don't need to hear some of this stuff you're telling me. Do you see what I'm saying? I want to be a better dad. So somebody's going to come in my life and help me be a better dad. Somebody's going to come in my life and help me be a better husband. I want more. I got to get what I need. And when I ask for it, I can't complain when I get it. Yeah. All right? Seriously. So you ask for it. Discipline life. It's coming. All right. So we want to transform nations. We want to see nations transform. That means we got to get on an airplane and go. I mean, you can't have both rules. Can't pray for the nations, believe for the nations, then I go to the nations. There's got to be.
Yeah. John, I'm really tracking with you here. I wonder if you could kind of take it step by step in terms of put something in the box, missions, whatever your outcome is you want.
Sure, let's try it. Let's try it on. Yeah.
And then maybe by example, you could say, okay, this is the outcome I desired, that I decided before God I want.
Yeah.
And these are the things that I have put around it to make that.
Okay, let's just do missions, for example. So when we first started the church, no one really wanted to go. Okay, so we had the value of nations are important by the scriptures.
Right.
We want to experience that by practice. And so when we started asking people to go, some people had never, we had no passports, and so it was a struggle to get there. The first mission trip was Ecuador. And when we went to Ecuador, or even back up, even to Miami, the first 15 people, those 10 out of the 15 people are still here today, and they're rocking it. George is leading children's ministry. It's powerful. Mary Michael and Hunter are leading the college. Tyler and Sarah are leading the young adults. There's so much power and grace. She's leading the prophetic team because they chose to say, we want a life in God. And I had to get around them. I remember Grace and Michaela were at our kitchen table, and it was last ditch effort. Maybe some of you heard me tell the story, but it was like they just kept, you guys who were had the stubborn, did anybody stubborn? Anybody
No,
have-
what?
Joe, did anyone have like a talk, you know, like I had a phone call conversation with you over the phone just to try to help you see another angle? So, so anyways, we're having that conversation, and I just said, look, how about I drive you? We'll go, and I'll just kind of last ditch effort. I try to explain, look, if you can't do, Michaela's big on worship. She loved worship. She'd go in a corner like this, and she'd just like worship God. I'm like, look, take that worship in the corner and go give it away to somebody. I mean, go do. You gotta get on mission. And now they're leading the mission trip to Japan. I mean, it's amazing because they said yes. They put discipline around that. They had to pay money. It was not easy. I think they were a freshman or something. You see what I'm saying? And yeah.
Just for more example of that, so like what were the disciplines around that box of missions? Like obviously they went to Miami.
I mean, we had to help them. There was car washes, and you know, we had to help them out with money because it's easy now. I mean, you know, $10,000 shows up. You know, it wasn't like that then. I mean, like God has blessed us. I mean, there's no doubt about it because there is that discipline. There is that, you know, and so God's like, these guys are real, right? But in the early days, it wasn't like that. It was just like, what? I mean, there's only 15, 20 people in the church, and so it was just hard to wrap my. It was hard to see. You know, 95% of the population are not vision minded. They can't see. So she's like, okay, yes. And then, you know, so you kind of help them get along, help them see it. And then once they were in that environment, but it was a constant conversation. Because even when they said yes, it was like, oh, we don't have any money, or I don't know. And parents are living. So it was constant. It was just a constant battle of discipline. Now it's easier. There's more voices and there's momentum, and you know, you kind of get in the flow pretty quickly. But we're still about discipline. So that's a good example. I mean, maybe some other ones.
I think
We could go down the line, maybe.
Okay,
but-
so the disciplines were giving money, being intentional, catching vision, and like saying yes to correction. Like, is that
Is that what you
that's what
picked
you
up?
guys are looking for, right?
Yeah.
Which ones do you want? Okay, so we'll take it. I'll give you as many as you want.
I
What do
think
you-
they were just looking for like, what did they do to
Okay, so,
discipline
all right,
themselves?
so about the money, do you want to talk about money? All right, so there's a time when I had whatever you want in the box, okay? I'll just put a box here, and you just come up and put it in the box, we'll talk about it. But, so finances are in the box. Obviously, we've seen that. When you're generous, it comes back. You cannot give God. So there was times when there was larger numbers. I mean, not the small ones, but the larger ones was a little harder, right? Okay. So besides tithing is a given. If you're not doing that, that's sin. So, but I'm talking about the offering. I'm talking about generosity, and you know. And so when there's the option or the opportunity to give, it can kind of seem scary, especially when you have need. So when there was that place, I remember that when my friend who is building a house here in Oviedo, he thought he was a little, well, anyways, he was a little over his head on that house. But you know what? I was in blessing, it was fine. I believed with him and all that. So I think it was like, I don't know what it was, like $350,000. I think they had to put in like $20,000 earnest money, and when you're building, and so you basically lose it if you're back out. Well, eventually you get it back out. And I kind of had sensed that. I was like, maybe it's a little bit ahead, and you know all that. So it was during that time where Nicole was saying, it felt like the Lord was saying, we need to give away our car. We had 2 Corollas, the Toyotas, and 2 identical ones that we bought one time ago, and the Lord said, give one away. Well, it's hard because those things that just don't make sense. You know, they just don't make sense to us. So, anyways, we felt like the Lord was right about that, and we didn't obey right away. You know, I mean, we were going to do it. But so I don't know how many weeks after that she called me from 417. She was picking up her friend from the airport, and she got in a car accident. That very car we're supposed to give away is totaled. So the next opportunity, I'm so thankful that she didn't. I remember coming there and getting her. The kids are just like just the 3 kids. We didn't have Judah at the time. I mean, they were terrified, and the front door was like, or the front of the car is all smashed up. She took that as just all right. We need to give this insurance money away, and so they gave us a huge check. And my buddy, he just was, I felt it, man, he was just in this place where he needed help. And so, but we, you know, anyways, so out of that place of need, we, finally when we released it, through the internet, that's what you do these days, so you can wire it. And I just felt this overwhelming sense of joy. I mean, I was weeping. I could, but as soon as I released it, it was gone out of my hands. It was just gone. And it was unbelievable, the power of God, his heart, his generosity. I felt it. It was in me. You can't actually feel that without releasing it. If you want to be generous, you have to release.
Yes.
I mean, there's another way around it. So, you see what I'm saying? Just put another in the box. I mean, we keep going. I mean, whatever you feel like is a struggle or a hard thing to just get over, you know, just the.
I think the disconnect is not what's in the box. It's what is the discipline that's getting you to what's in the box.
It's obedience.
Yeah, it's obedience, exactly.
I mean, I can read all the books on money, which I did. I mean, I went through ADS and all that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's obedience. Yeah, I have to obey. I have to.
That was the second part, was that the second part?
Sometimes it's reading a book, though. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, help me understand, give me testimonies, or.
Yeah, think like, in a much simpler term, like, okay, my desire is to lose like 20 pounds. So that's
Run.
the mission.
Eat well.
Right, exactly. So the discipline around it would be run a certain amount of time every day, you know, cut out.
We're gonna get, guys, remember, we're gonna get to the practicals on the other side of this, on the other side of this thing, real practical. Don't worry.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with vision so that we know where we're going, we know why we're doing it. So, all right, so that, the idea is that we have, you know, we want there to be joy, right? That's the, look, we do all this stuff for the joy of the Lord. That's why we do it. That's it. I won't earn anything. I'm not rich because I gave money away. I'm still kind of in the same place. I mean, in a way, I mean, just the idea of like, I don't get, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say something about
Yeah.
that whole thing about the car and everything. I mean, it shows us that the first time that he talks to us and puts something in
Sure.
our heart, we have to obey.
Yeah, right away.
Because, I mean, he kept the kids and your wife,
Sure.
you know, they were okay, but here you are, in any ways you had to give it away.
Well, it
I
didn't
mean,
make sense too,
he-
because we lost that, and then we had Judah, and we only had one car that only fit 5, and so we needed 6. And then the blessing cakes were able to pay cash for our man.
Yeah, that's
Because we
when,
wanted to be that first, so.
and that joy that you had, that's when you know that it comes from
Sure.
God, because when we give,
Yeah.
that's what.
Yeah, and the same thing when I had you know, so I want to be debt free. And so in the box, I'm like, Lord, we are debt free people. And man, that came with a challenge. The desire to be debt free is much easier than the discipline of being debt free. And I remember that day before we started the church plan, because I knew that it is kind of a deal in our movement. It's like be debt free, and besides your house mortgage, and even that, we're still believing for 200-some thousand come in miraculously. So, and I believe it will. I do. We are contending for it to be debt free people. And so there was this debt we had about $23,000, and that's when we moved. We had to sell the house, and that was our only money that we had to start this church. Our first support check was $100-some, $187. And so we were believing, okay, God, you were very, very clear on that word to pay it off. And again, I mean, just talk about just the struggle in it. I mean, it was like the Lord was speaking to us in around the summertime, June, July, and there was around November that we finally did pay it off. And so when I checked my account, it was always like the pot debited $238, and for some reason it went up to $239, so we're overdrafting for the amount of time from June to July. July or summertime to November. I mean, it wasn't much, but it was just enough to say, okay, it's a done deal. We need to we need to pull the trigger, and when we did, there was again a release, a blessing. And those are big those are bigger stories. But in the small things, it's just I do not feel like running a day, but I run 30 minutes a day. Every time it's just like there's just this. But when I come back, I just feel this sense, and then there's fruit. At night, there's more energy. There's benefits to it. all sorts of reasons why. I mean, just praying and just burn off cortisol, burn off stress. But I very rarely ever feel like doing those things, but it's a done deal daily. You just got to do it, and so you can get that place of delight. So we'll get to some of those practicals and some of the gray areas of the Christian life too, that sometimes the Bible maybe doesn't speak exactly. But does that help? I mean, there's so many examples, but just feel free to ask more. I mean, or maybe give a testimony in an area of. But I guess I was talking more about like the core values that we have, but then also you can break out and say, yeah, we want to be a people of generosity, we want to be a people of humility. How do you discipline humility? How do you do that? There's times where, I mean, I've been on this thing about James 3 lately. God's been teaching me a lot about James 3, about only speaking when, the Lord is speaking. And I remember someone told me a long time ago, just when you have nothing to say, you feel like God's not, just stop, don't. And it was encounter night at Waco, and Brandon Seibert, who's going to join us in Japan and help us out with prayer strategy, he helped out with the Indonesian team. And Ricky got an opportunity to lead worship, and just a lot of the missionaries were there, and it was just a really cool time together. And normally in those environments, man, God's stirring something, and he's always stirring something in us, and there's always something you can say, of course, right? And Jimmy comes up to me, he's like, hey man, do you have anything to say? Here, take the mic and go. I looked at him, I was like, and Jessica was right there. I said, I'm good. I was just enjoying the presence of God. I was enjoying people kind of getting up and sharing words and stuff like that. And she looked at me, she's like, man, that was a first. Why didn't you take the opportunity? I'm like, it's not about an opportunity. It's just about obedience. There was just nothing I felt like the Lord needed to say. I wasn't here to impress anybody. I mean, there's a place you just gotta look. If we're gonna be people of humility and we want to honor the Lord in everything we do, you gotta make some of those kind of decisions. So,
I got a question.
sure.
What's that word beside discipleship?
Yeah. Challenged in growth. That is the. Yeah. So in other words, if you don't place yourself in a discipleship relationship and you don't live life on life, you'll never be challenged.
Yeah.
You'll never have a coach. No one's ever checking your swing to see that you're off. And you need somebody in your life so that there's spiritual growth. That's why so many churches, they have excellent Sunday mornings. They have Bible teaching, and there's so much energy is put in the production of it. Lord, may we never be there in that way. And I mean, we can get better and more excellent. There's a difference between performance and excellence. But the idea is that discipleship is a big deal for us. And so we put a lot of emphasis in there, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's 3 things, guys. 3 things that I'll never stop doing. I'll never stop spending time with Jesus. I'll never stop investing in the ones and twos. I'll never stop going on mission. That's who we are. If you heard me, it's not that I'll never stop speaking in big crowds and all this all this stuff that church, it's the church life, the speaking, all those. Those are the 3 areas that are our heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it's an invitation for all of us to do the same. In other words, you might want to be, cracks me up when someone comes up to me and says, I'm the prophetess, or I'm the prophet. It's ridiculous. The fact that you said that, makes me, you're not. Because you don't need to do that. I'm not walking around saying I'm the apostle. That's weird. That is really weird. That makes me feel so uncomfortable. It makes me cringe inside. But I'm a disciple maker. And I'm a worshiper. And we're all missionaries. We're all evangelists in that sense. You see what I'm saying? Those are the 3 most important things in the heart of God. If you feel like, oh man, I'm not getting my little deal and no one's noticing me in this, just do those 3 things. And I promise you'll have the peace of God, the joy of God, and the fruit of God. You will. At the end of the day, it's like if I get confused about anything, I'm just like, man, I just want to invest in the ones and twos. I just want to meet with you, God. I just want to share it with somebody else. I've got it. That's that's what I'm made for. And all the other stuff's important, right? I mean, we wanna develop gifts in you and all those kinds of, I mean, it's all good. So that so for me, those three areas have gotta be disciplined. I've gotta get time with Jesus in the morning, and if you need me to tell me what it looks like, I'll let you, I mean, there's times I just go to the chapel right here, there's times I'm in my living room, there's times I'm in my neighborhood. I don't have an office, and I have a very busy household, so I have to find a place where I can get that in God. I have to get to bed earlier, so I can get up earlier. But I'm also not a legalist. I'm also realizing, hey man, if I had a rough night or something, I'll sleep in a little bit. It's not the, but I don't want to make that a habit, because if I make that a habit, I'm going to lose something along the way. More of Him. I need Him. So, and then just with discipline, it's just I've got to stay disciplined. In that's why we say like share 3 times a week, because if we don't put some level of discipline around that value of evangelism, then we're just not going to do it. And if we're not going to do it, we won't see the fruit, and we'll implode. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So there's nothing legalistic about us telling you 3 times a week, just shoot for it. So that's something that I'm trying, I mean, just the other day, Hunter and I were out and getting lunch or something like that, or Publix, we're just talking to the guy that did the cashier. I mean, it's just, you gotta get in that discipline, and that's an area where, even for me still, there's a level of weakness. If I don't discipline that desire, if I don't actually like, tell me, I've gotta get out and share, because sometimes you can kind of get stuck in this, and I know my primary job is to equip the saints to do ministry, but it doesn't excuse me for the very thing that God's called all of us to. So that I got to get in there, and ask me, hey, when's the last time I shared the gospel? And, just get in my world too as well. It's important for me. All right, so does that make sense? I mean, I just focused on these, but if you have another example, let me know. We can talk about it. So, but I guarantee most of the things that hit the soul, so that, I mean, we're all made for family. We're all like, man, I just want family, I just want friends. What are you doing to cultivate friendship in your life then? Because if you're like alone and just watching movies and just watching people do life instead of doing life with them, I mean, you can't have friendships, right? So that's a deep desire for many of us. We're made for it. What are we doing to cultivate it? Just sometimes you know what I love about Jessica? Anytime we're traveling or we go on trips, one of the things she does is she asks great questions. She makes you feel so valued. If any of you guys are on Jessica, I'm sure just start asking a question. Why do you do this? It just makes you feel so loved. She's friends with a lot of people because I think she just makes people feel so valued and serves so many people. I mean, they're like, oh, we're not having friends. Just ask people questions, serve them, love them, get around them. I mean, you have many friends. Do that. Take your insecurity, drive it to the ground, and it can go care about somebody else. I mean, choose humility. Many friends. Anything else on that? Love the challenge. It's great. You guys are funny. Deeper in the examples and the practical. I need that. It's great. All right, so the American way is the way accomplished without pain or cost. Right? We live in America. We're under that culture. Probably most cultures are like that, right? I mean, most countries. But this is where we live. So you got to put in certain hours to get something out. And we know that. We know pain or gain. But again, not in that spin of performance. But understand that it's going to cost us something. All right, so we'll turn this thing around. Hopefully we get a little bit more practical on some of the reading and news, media, sports, and all that kind of stuff. But all right, so many people ask me how much time do I spend with the Lord, or you need to spend with the Lord? It's just really it's simple. It's how much time do you need? I mean, if you're feeling unloved, you get more time. If you're feeling depressed, you need to get more time. You need discipline to see the fruit. You see what I'm saying? Don't pay attention to all the scripture guys. Just listen. I know. This is my mind. So do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, if you're feeling joyless, get around someone who has joy. let them impart something to you, but a lot of times, look, I believe in impartation, but I think there are some times where God just will deliver you on the spot, but then most of the time it's a work of discipline. Sometimes that impartation is catalytic. It's like, I just need to get the oppression out so that I can move forward. You know that oppression? It's hard. It's a constant thought life, thought pattern. And we need to be delivered from that so that we can actually do the discipline. And so, no food in the barn in winter is because you didn't put anything in the summer or the spring. Right? Or fall. Right? Isn't that crazy how that works? I mean, it's the simple principle. Paul says it like this, right? What is it? 1 Corinthians, you can read that. 1 Corinthians 9, you know, he disciplines his body. It's a good thing. He's like, I don't want to be disqualified. I can't afford to be disqualified. There's too much at stake. I want to win this race. So, and then he also says in Hebrews 12, he said that the Father disciplines. It is for discipline that you endure. God deals with you as sons. For what son is there whom the Father does not discipline? But if you are without discipline, of which all of you become partakers, then you are illegitimate children and not sons. Furthermore, we have earthly fathers to discipline us, and we respect to them. Shall we not much rather be subject to the Father of spirits and live? For they discipline us for a short time, as seems best to them, but he disciplines us for our good, so that we may share in his holiness. Right? That's the goal. We want to be more like him. All discipline for the moment doesn't seem joyful, but sorrowful. Yet to those who have been trained by it afterwards, it yields a peaceful fruit of righteousness. Therefore, strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble. Make straight paths for your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. It's a good word. Ultimately, it's the motivation is joy. It's not joyful sometimes. We have to choose joy, but there is joy. So like when I'm even running, it's like I know I'm like, God, I know that this is producing fruit in me. I know that I'm gonna live long. I know my heart's gonna not fail. I mean, for whatever. I mean, it can, but I'm gonna do whatever it takes on my end to have a healthy heart, to eat healthy, and to cheer. When Nicole and I did the Daniel fast years back, that changed our life. Watching, what was that movie? What's that food movie? Fooding. That changed my life. You know, and just the way it really did. I mean, it just really changed the way I thought about. Wow. Because I mean, we in general ate healthy. I mean, we didn't have any high processed foods, the Twinkies, donuts, all that kind of stuff in the house. But little by little, we started removing this stuff and realized, man, we actually feel better. It's not easy, but it's amazing when you get off the Daniel fast in the first 3 days. It's awful. You're angry. I'm an angry person. I am like, it's amazing. For the first week, I'm just not happy. I'm irritable. And I know because it literally physically, you're detoxing, man. It is not fun. But I know that I can put up with that little bit of pain because knowing on the back end, I'm free. And what I mean by free is, look, when it comes to eating, like I say here, are we enjoying the meal or are we meeting a need? And food meets, in a good way, it meets needs. And what I know about food is the gateway of pleasure. When I don't discipline the food habits, the wheels start coming off, man. It's only a matter of time before you're in the junk. It's a pleasure. It's the pleasure gate. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll eat that. I'll eat that. You know how that is. You're just like, Lord, it's like you need to go home. You don't need to stay up late. You don't need to eat that. And then all of a sudden, it's funny how that you just give into. It's just food. It's just a burger. That's all it is. It's just food. But we give into it, and it just all of a sudden, it's the gateway. Right? It's like you just give permission. It's like you give yourself a treat. You give yourself permission. You start thinking that way. You start getting. It's not good where it ends. It's not. We need to discipline ourselves in such a way that food is meant for the stomach, not for the soul. Does that make sense? I look at food in a different way now. I'm like, I need something that nourish me. I'm challenged. I don't want to give this is the reason why I don't give examples, because I don't want people to mimic my life. And whatever's some of this stuff is just not, I wanna be really careful, because I really don't, I wanna help people. I don't want to, but I'm just saying, today I made certain food choices this afternoon with food. Take it whatever, how you want it. I mean, so I didn't get any breakfast, and I was like, man, I kinda want this food. I just felt like the Lord's like, nah, you don't get it. And look, I'm not a legalist. There are times where there's so many times I've just given in, and it didn't lead to this, like major sin or something like that. But there is something, though. That's why we fast. We deprive ourselves of we break something breaks. There's a breaking. We break the unholy momentum, right? It's like there's just like when you're just eating whatever you want and enjoying life, awesome burgers, that, the other, whether it's healthy or not healthy, and you're just filling your needs. And all of a sudden, it's like there's just this momentum, and then you start feeling entitled with everything else in life. You start feeling entitled. You feel like, oh, it's okay. Oh, I'll watch that. Oh, that's all right. I'll do this. I'll go ahead. And then, oh, it's okay. I'll go to bed late. It's fine. No legalism. I go to bed with Jesus. He'll wake up with me. And then all of a sudden, you just start doing this little, like, whatever happens kind of happens, and you feel like it's the grace of God and the grace of God. And then you're like frustrated, miserable. You don't feel like you can sense the Holy Spirit. You feel like you can't give a prophetic word maybe. And it all goes back to the burger. It just goes back. I love burgers, by the way. But it just, you know what I'm saying? It just goes back to, like, I just do whatever I want.
Right.
And there's something that's like, no, I cannot just do whatever I want in life. If I do that, it's going to lead somewhere I don't want to be. Does that make sense? Right. All right. Okay, so news. I ran across the story of Smith Wigglesworth. Powerful, right?
Yeah.
Powerhouse. Saw miracles, signs, and wonders. Amazing stuff. What this guy said was, now I'm telling you, this guy saw like serious raising people from the dead. I mean, some serious stuff. If you read his books, you're like, what in the world is this? But anytime someone brought a newspaper in his house, he said, "Get that demon out of my house." And do you know why he said that? Is because he could not afford to have the negativity in his mind. He cannot afford that. His word, prayer, fasting, and this other guy who's now a modern day Smith Wigglesworth, his name is David Hogan. He prayed for me. He's a big guy, huge, big brown eyes, from Mexico, bald-headed guy, beard. And so this guy's out in Mexico. He sees like all these amazing, 37 raising of the dead. Just all sorts of miracles, amazing stuff. He's in Mexico, and he's got to drive sometimes like 3 hours and walk 8 hours into the desert. And he's just he's seen this guy who's in prison and feces all over him. Saw him just get delivered from the Lord, from the demon, and just just fall in love with God, not missionary himself, and just all sorts of stuff. You know what he said? I fast 72% of the time.
Oh my God.
That's 100 days a year he eats. You can't have that kind of fruit in the like whatever lifestyle you want in the flesh. You can't have it. You can't have your cake and eat it too, as I would say. Now, I'm not fasting 72% of the time. My wife and I, we listen to that in the car with all the kids, and they're like laughing at something. We listen. I forgot what trip we're on. We're like listening to it, and we look at each other like, man, there's more. There's so much more. We think we're like, oh man, we're so good, and there's so much more.
Yeah.
There's someone always living a little bit higher, and I want that. I gotta get around people like that. That's why I travel. I try to get around people, just read books and listen to messages, and I want more. I don't want to just get to the place where I'm good. I'm going to treat myself. What the heck is that? Get treated. It always leads to sin. You know that mentality. Come on, man. Don't. I'm not as crazy as you think. You know that thought.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm doing pretty good. All you need is a guy who's living a little lower than you. You feel a little good, and then you're done. And that's not a good way to live. So I'm like, man, there's a little hard, and it's a little good. It's for your benefit. Because if you go to a church who's living lower, I'm sure there's living higher. I'm not trying to be a comparison thing, but we need the challenge.
Yeah.
I need somebody to get around my world and say, hey, look, challenge that thinking, because where are you going to be without it?
Yeah.
So I got to discipline my desire. I got to discipline them. If I want more of God, I'm going to have to do the work.
Yeah.
And submitting. this helpful?
Yes.
Right, so in sports, again, I don't know why. I love sports, but I realize that, you know, I gotta be careful, in a couple months, baseball season's coming, and as a person, I love baseball, and I am weak, okay? I will find myself just being exhausted and being like, I'll just put on, like, MLB.McCaleb, and he'll tag me, my little guy. And so he's just like, Dad, let's watch baseball, let's do it. And it's just so easy. Is there anything with a father watching baseball this time? No. But I every time I gotta check my heart. Even Nicole, like, honey, do you really need to be watching that? Why? Holy Spirit. Do you it's for my benefit. At the time, it's just the way it sounds. It's funny how it sounds a little more nagging when you don't want to do it. So, but it's out of love. I mean, because I'd rather hear it and just be poked a little bit than just do whatever I want and slide right into backsliding. I don't want to do that. And look, there's nothing wrong with baseball. I mean, gosh, even they don't even pay for these subscriptions or whatever it is. Sometimes they're even free, and there's no commercials. I mean, there's nothing bad. I mean, like even in our household, there's no commercials. I mean, I don't want my kids to watch commercials. And so they know when they're in other households, they see a commercial, they go in the other room. And it's funny, it's like clockwork. And the grandparents are amazing. You know, talk about the exposing the deeds of darkness. I mean, they don't even have to say a word. They just walk out of the room. There's great conviction going on pop up. Because it's just like, man, maybe I shouldn't be watching this commercial. Maybe you should. Watch the Nun channel. It's the safest channel on the networks. So, C-SPAN and Nun channel. Safest. You won't ever find anything wrong with that. You might find about theology, or politics, but yeah. This is all day, every day, just boring people. So, anyways, the sports deal, I just personally just wanted to say that. I mean, you may not have any trouble with it, but for guys, I think it's escapism. I really do. I mean, it's a place of escape. It's just like, and here's what I say too, that when you talk about what you know, and you know what's a kind of turn off to me? I mean, look, I gotta be careful with all these practicals. You got one practical, so I don't know. I'm careful of this because I think truths, there's implications. When I speak truth, the Holy Spirit will implicate something. There's implications for every truth. I don't always have to like go the extra step and actually give exactly, because you've got to live with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
The Holy Spirit might say something that's not even on this list.
Yeah.
This is just the John list. I mean, this is just helpful for me. But there might be some other list. There might be makeup for you guys, girls. Maybe, whatever it is, right? The way we dress, honesty, whatever. So, but the deal about sports is when I just know all these dumb stats that don't matter anymore. I mean, it just really, when I think about how silly it is, I mean, I'll tell me, because they like baseball, and their grandparents sometimes give them baseball cards, or even Steve, you have a bunch of them, you give them to my kids all the time. And and by the way, they want to talk to you about something, because they got some baseball, they're like, Steve's going to love this card, man, he's really going to love this card, it's going to be awesome. So anyways, so they just think it's fun, and so I gave them all my old ones, and they're like, Dad, this is so crazy, some of the 90s, early 2000s, and so, you just know all these, and you look back at these memories, I'm like, oh my goodness, I take everything to the extreme. The reason I need a lot of discipline because I'm all over the place. I need discipline. I admit that. I really do. I take extreme. I take everything extreme. Ask my wife. I need everything. I mean, it's like I get hooked on food. If I like a pair of jeans, give me 3. If I'm just a crazy person. It's not like I need discipline. You know? So I just, it's good to be real about some stuff. So, okay. Well, anyways, so I was saying with the sports things that over my time with the Lord, it became a little bit more distasteful. When I was around some of the guys who are in church, different churches, different places, about this team, that team, all that football. You know what I do? I just smile and nod because I don't know who anybody is anymore. I just don't give in, and it takes time and energy, and I realize that here's a good question to ask me where I put it. Will this get you to your goal? Will watching that movie get you to your goal? Maybe it's totally holy. It's totally. It is fine. Talking about even some Christian movies. I've just you know, the more you spend time with God, the more you're involved in the mission of God, the more things are just distasteful. I don't know how to explain that, but they just are. They're just not as fun. They're just not as fun. Hanging out with people living life together is better than watching life. And it's just the fantasy of it. Sometimes we're hurt, we're broken, and we're hurting, and we're just looking for something, and we put it on, we tune in, and it could be the holiest movie out there, and Jesus would be totally fine when sitting and watching with you. But it's just, what's the heart motive? Why do you want to watch it? What's going on deeper inside? You know that moment where you're like, you go home at night, and you're like, man, I just want to watch a movie, eat something. You know, food and movies all go together. It's amazing how that works. I'm not hungry until the movie's on. Movie's on, I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. So, you know, but those things go. I mean, it's just that it's sometimes just giving into. Sometimes it's just you're worn out, you're tired, you just want something to just take your mind off some things. And just be careful with that because the Bible says fill your mind with the good stuff, and don't let the whatever it is the media take you, especially the news. I mean, watching the news, I think sometimes honestly more dangerous than watching a movie. Just provokes so much fear in people. So get that demon out of my house. Wow. You think that's legalism? It is like, I want to live that way. Yeah.
That just keeps on reminding, I've had like a reoccurring, just like thought process for like probably the last 2 weeks now. But it was like through, the Kings, whenever I was like reading through all of them, the Lord really highlighted to me just like how rare it was for, I think I even told you this like at, the last Sunday service, anyways.
Yeah.
But it was just, he really highlighted to me how rare it was for a king to actually come in and clear out the high places. And like how there's, you know, kings who, you know, come in and like they would just still do the normal things. And like that's just really honestly like a lot of people who don't believe in God. And then you see the kings who actually like come in and they literally, he says, like he did what was right on the side of the Lord, but he didn't clear out the high places. And so for me, like it was just been this like massive lesson of like, wow, like what are the high places in my life that like I haven't cleared out yet, or like what are the things that like I'm not taking out, because like it was so rare for a king to actually come in and take out the high place, because they were literally having to come in and like clear out like so much culture and the norm and all this stuff that had been built up for generations. And so like my biggest like prayer and like just humbling myself before the Lord is like, God, what is my high place? Like what are the things that I'm holding above you? Like eating or like watching a movie.
I think it's
all
interesting
these
how
things.
TVs are on a high place. I mean, it's just a, you know,
Yeah.
look, here's the deal. Again, it's the whole example of that. I want to be careful because there's nothing wrong, there's nothing evil about a screen.
Yeah.
It's what you put on the screen that makes it evil. But,
It's
so but we have chosen early on to say, we can't have a TV in the house. I mean, gosh, what has it been now? 10 to 12 years in our marriage. 10 to 12 years ago, we decided to do it on TV. And it served us well. And I'm still messed up. I'm still need more discipline in my life, more help in my life. I mean, because now there's the internet. I mean, there's computers. I mean, there's the same thing. So, but you can get movies on. You don't need to put it on a TV screen. You can get Netflix and all that stuff, which I don't have, by the way. I do not have Netflix. I don't have any of that junk. I watch the movie. I don't even tell you how long. Maybe once or twice a year I watch it. It's just I cannot afford to have that stuff. I can't. I mean, look, man, it's the frog in the kettle issue. We're just like, you know, the frog in the kettle issue. Does everyone know what that is?
No.
Wait, you put a frog in a hot kettle, and I mean, it doesn't feel it until it's too hot, and then it burns to death.
Oh,
The slow burner.
It's a slow-
Bottom
yeah.
will jump out, it's the
It's
slow
just
burn.
little by little, they're just frying little by, yeah.
oh, so sad.
I mean, but that's our life. I mean, in so many ways, we're just letting it. We're just like, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and it's not the big stuff. It's not like we're not talking about like pornography here. We're not talking about, greed and stealing. I mean, you're not tempted by the bigger things. It's the small stuff that eventually does lead to all those other things. But it's the small little foxes that run the garden of our hearts. Our heart is to protect our heart above all other things. I remember, look, you cannot be an intercessor, you cannot be a prophetic person and watch the junk. Because here's the revelation I got a long time ago is that if you're a dreamer, right, in your mind, you messes with you.
Yeah.
You cannot have both. So if you're a creative arts person and you're like on the right side, you're the right brain kind of people, it's probably not a good idea to dabble in that stuff. Because it's gotta be so pure so that when you get a download revelation, we all want those heavy down, we all want that download to feel like, here's the word of the Lord, and you're the person that's constantly mixture. It's so much mixture in your life, and it's hard to receive from you. We do want our cake and eat it too, man. I've had so many people that are just so gifted. There are gifted people that probably never have the stage ever for a long, long time. It saddens my heart, it breaks my heart, just because they're probably more gifted than I am. I mean, speaking of whatever it is, whatever it is, they won't have it because it's so much compromise and mixture that they'll use their gifting to get out of their junk, and they don't do it that way. You see what I'm saying? So it's so important in our church that I'm interested in the character more than the gifting. It's so important. I mean, our staff is a very gifted staff, but they're not the most gifted. They're not like superstars, or I don't feel intimidated. I mean, they're family. I'd rather have the character. This is the character, and we constantly are working on it all the time. It breaks my heart sometimes to see somebody's life constantly in bondage over and over and over again. And they want, because of the insecurities, they want to shine with their gift. There's no character to sustain it, and it's just a constant cycle. And it just breaks my heart. I don't think there's anything worse than me. It's not a life wasted. It's just unfortunately you're lusting after this, whatever it is, platform, whatever it is, and you may not have that because I may not give that to you. But there's people behind the scenes that, wow, what do you like? I say that. No, I can't do that. It will hurt you. It will hurt everybody else. Because you're trying to get back to work, you're trying to get way out of the way. So understand what I'm saying by that? It's tough. Watch people really hurt by that. No, anyways, you can say.
I was just wondering, like, when there is like a desire, from the Lord to like do something or like to see something from the past, and like there's like a delay or like this apathy that comes like when the desire is like given, like what would you, like how do you discipline, or like for example, I have like just a desire to see like, just even with how I share with you like about the outreach stuff and all of that, but I feel like in that place of like having that heart and like all of that, like I feel like there's something there, like this like apathy or this delay that comes with like the desires that God places on my heart that like I just can't push past, like I can't like see like the discipline part of it, because it's like there's like an in-between that I struggle with a lot, like and it's really a laying down of self. I feel like it's like me really realizing like I have to be willing to lay down my own desires in order to see God's like purposes kind of fast, but
Well,
it's like
I mean, yeah, let me just, okay, so that is such a good question. I think so many of us struggle with that. There are a couple of reasons behind it. One, I mean, which we talk about, the reason why we have the 10-year heart guys come in, is because there is deep wounds in us. There is some stuff that we're plagued with such insecurity, such self-doubt, self-condemnation that we just can't seem to get over. So where it's like we have great ideas. I want to be a teacher one day, and I want to teach the truths of God, and I'm studying the Word. How do I get from that desire to actually end up doing that? There's so much in between. Really what's in between is it's trust. It's building that trust. It's just, I've seen so much, like, it really has to do with just doing it. Like, I mean, sometimes there's just no other way but just do it. Even though I can't tell you how many times I come home and I am tired. Like, sometimes I often think it's a little unfair that God expects me to get up in the morning, spend time with them, and take all the phone calls, disciple, people in trouble, and all these kinds of things. I mean, and then come home after all that, and I still got about 5 to 9, and now I gotta deal with the Rugrats. And I gotta deal with it, I mean, I gotta clean up the house, and I love them. I mean, I love my family, but some days it's just like, what in the world? So I have a choice to make. I'll be an absent cop-out father. I mean, I can't afford to do that. So 90-some% of the time, I don't feel like doing the dishes. I don't feel like asking Caleb, hey Caleb, can you sweep the floor? And he's sweeping, he's like, and the stuff's going all over the place. Hey, I can do better job than he can in 2 minutes more than me training him to try to discipline that and get that in. So eventually he can do that, and we can move on to other bigger things. But we want the high-paying job, but we don't want to sweep the floor. We want it's our culture who says, hey, have it without the cost. So we want the title, but not the work. I mean, you can go on and on about it. I don't feel like going home and doing those kinds of things, but I do it. And my joy is to serve my wife, to serve my kids, and sometimes serving my kids is actually saying, hey, Caleb, I know you gotta get upstairs, go ahead, and I'll just sweep the floor, I'll get things right, put the chairs up, because we have the cockroach problem right now, that's the new season that we're in. And so, it's a lot more work than just like cooking the meal, putting the dishes in the dishwasher, and going to bed. Like probably all you guys, it's normal. But now it's like, and sometimes we sit there and we don't complain spirit, but it kind of comes out, why don't you just spray every week and try to take all the plates out in the walls and put the stuff in. Put a spray, have the kids out playing outside, they come back with mud, I'm spraying everything, I have to clean them up, put them upstairs, get them showered. I mean, it's a crazy life. But at the end of the day, what am I gonna do? Go sit on the couch and just rub my belly and just go, oh, you guys, what the heck is that? I mean, I have to work. It takes hard work. And so their kids see the kids see that dad has good work ethic. Okay, he works hard. He's a manager. Most of the time, I'm a person of joy. Sometimes I complain a little bit here and there, but I mean, thankful hearts drift. We're always talking about that in the family. I mean, especially with all the little problems and the stuff that's going on in our, in the kitchen and all that. I mean, our bathroom is gutted. We don't have a bathroom. We all use, the whole family, 6 is using one bathroom upstairs. And the little bathroom, it's hard work. Like, it's not easy. It's discipline. It's hard work. It's serving. It's doing when you don't feel like it. 95% of the time, I just don't feel like doing it. But I end up doing it. But if I start saying, God, why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening? That's just a victim mindset. It's victim. That's not okay. Because God's not doing anything to you. If anything, He's giving you opportunity to serve, so there's fruit on the back end of your life.
Yeah, so good.
I mean, that's who He's called us to be. Serve. You know what I did in Waco the whole time? Put up chairs and put down chairs. The whole time. I say a word. I do testimony. I pray for some people, but when I just put up chairs. As I was doing, anywhere from chair put up or downer, to senior leader. Just you do it all. You do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, hey, I'm too good for that now because I kind of earned my stripes. That's not how it works in the kingdom. We serve. It's joy of the Lord. What are we teaching anybody then, right? So that's who we are. The people that are disciplined, so that there's fruit of righteousness and joy back in strength. Maybe that didn't answer your question, but if you want, I remember that conversation about the evangelism, and I was just waiting. I'm not holding your hand. I can't. At the end of the day, I can't. If you want that, that's your calling and that's your mandate and that's what you do. Here's what I know. Sometimes we want something and it's not disciplined because we don't actually have supernatural power because our motives were off. In other words, it wasn't our task. But if it's your task, there's power behind it. And it's a little bit disciplined one way. Right? So you got to ask yourself, is that a mandate from the Lord? Is that just a good idea because I'm going to press on somebody, or it kind of sounds cool, whatever. But that matters too. Does that make sense? So don't beat yourself up because you didn't get it done. Just sit back and say, okay, God, why is this so hard? What did I not learn in my youth? What did I just get away with? Where was the places I was not disciplined? So many of us got away with so much. And it was not good for us. And God's going to have to teach now, in 30s or 20, by 20, to teach us discipline, but we didn't have it before. So I would teaching you early on, I mean, the kids, every day, it's like, when are they gonna get it? Hey, spend time with God. That's how we spend time with God. Going in the room. Hey, Caleb, did you spend time with God? No, I'm just about to. Eli, I'm kind of tired. I mean, let's go. Let's get out of bed. Let's get dressed. Let's spend time. I mean, it's fathering. I mean, it's what he does for me. Just what I'm saying. So that when they're older, man, they're full in God. They're not full, gee. I mean, I want my kids to lead in this next generation. And it takes work, and I'm not perfect at it. And sometimes I miss, and sometimes I miss a quiet time. And then we're busy. We got to get out of the house early, or whatever. I mean, and then we maybe do something in the car together, or we just, sing a song, or just talk about something. And I mean, we're not legalistic about it, but we gotta discipline that desire so we get that place of fruit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what that question, Teresa, I mean, I think it's great, but I think if it's such a struggle, we gotta sit back and ask. I just want to tell people sometimes get 2 or 3 jobs. I mean, I think this is the most underworked generation we have in the planet. I mean, if you really want my opinion, we're lazy. I'll say that, I'm like, guys, we don't want to be lazy. We're not like Creole's not lazy. We're not hard workers. I mean, the rain, mud, we're just out, we're doing it. And sometimes the thing that I'm working on now is once you get the work ethic, now God's working on the complaining, the joyful spirit. Once he's done with that, he wants the completion. Is obey quickly, cheerfully, and completely. It's just over and over and over and over again, right? So, faithful with little, ruler of much. Is it heavy? Is this helpful? Okay. All right. So, I think that's it, right? Good here. What time is it?
7:47.
7:47. We're early. I'm not gonna. Don't worry. Okay. All right. So honesty, humility, vulnerability. If we will get the breakthrough, no blame. Okay. Don't blame anybody, because obviously you can't blame me for not keeping you accountable. That's something you want to do. That's great. Do it, and then you just get somebody to get around you and say, hey, can you keep me accountable to X, Y, and Z? If you wanted that bad, you get somebody. You can't blame anybody for not accomplishing the task. I mean, I'm not saying you are, by the way. You understand? What I'm saying is if there's a great idea, it's from the Lord. Let's talk about it. Let's sit down. I really want to start something. I want to start a ministry. I want to start whatever it is. Let's talk about it. But hard work is actually a really big value in our church.
Yeah.
I mean, you should see, it's pretty hard on our life group leaders and our staff. I mean, because it's a big deal for us. We work hard, but it's not performance, and I try to gauge that. I'm really on that performance excellence thing. Excellence is a character issue. It means I have to actually rely on the Spirit to be excellent, to be a man of character, a woman of character, and performance is our flesh. It's for your benefit. Excellence is for His benefit.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And so we're not a people of performance. We're not going to ride the ship. And sometimes it feels like that. I went to bed last night the other night and said, Nicole's like, man, it's just so hard in children's ministry. Look, if you can't serve in children's ministry, it is not, to my opinion, not a low level. They're my kids, and some other things. It's not a low level deal. And it's not a stepping stone to something greater. Don't treat that ministry like that. It's no wonder the kids are messed up in this world. It's perhaps we don't actually put enough emphasis on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's all this stress. It should not be stressful. Ministry should never be stressful. It is not stressful. People are stressful at times, yes, but it is not. It is a great joy. I want to challenge people so that there's fruit on their life. When we're talking about you and Nessie, when we're praying, I've been praying for you. For whatever reason, the Lord's been putting you. I'll show you journal stuff. Nessie. I'm praying for you. Nothing been bad. I'm not saying something's bad. The Lord put you on my mind. I have places and spaces for intercession in my walk with God. I'm not a walking intercessor, but I do leave space for it. And when you share that testimony, I'm like, wow, He's answering.
Yeah.
I just had one of the girls in our church. She there was like a little bit of a rub, and she complained about some stuff, and I was just contending. It's beautiful today, I was just in tears. I was weeping with her. I was praying for her. It was a powerful moment. It was breakthrough, man, because we just went to prayer for months, and I got to see the breakthrough.
Yeah.
You have to discipline the intercession. To see delight. I'm a man of delight today. I can go home happy. I wouldn't even need to come here tonight. I just go to bed for that encounter. It's powerful. It was absolutely amazing breakthrough. Where this person was offended and hardened. She's, look at me, she said, my heart's hard. And I know it. I'm like, it's okay. I just tears running down my face, tears running down. She's like, oh, this is so awkward. I don't know. This is so awkward. Why is it awkward? We're family. This is who we are. This is why we do it. This is who we are as a people. We just gotta go through these awkward moments. We'll be on the other side of the light. We have to see breakthrough happen. I can't tell you the other revelation because then I'll give it away. But there was just this sweet revelation, just this one moment she'll never forget it, probably for the rest of her life. Just the revelation that God gave her in that moment. It was just powerful. And I say, hey, I gotta go.
Yeah.
And it was powerful. I attribute all that to some level of challenge on the phone. You guys got that kind. And the most of it is the power of God through prayer. I'm convinced.
That's right, yeah.
So that's why I say stuff like that in church. Whenever something's flowing, I'm like, someone's praying for me. And I love that. People tell me, hey, I've been praying for that. Just thank you. Pray. I need more prayer in my life. I need people to pray. I need.
Amen.
Okay. All right. Why don't we take a break? And then we'll come back for a little Q&A, and then we'll be released early. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.